What if everything you think you know about solitude is missing a deeper truth? What if the silence and isolation you fear most is actually the key to unleashing your highest potential, unearthing spiritual wisdom, and cultivating unshakable inner strength? Let us venture into a place where external chaos becomes distant static, where your mind is forced to confront itself without the comfort of distractions. This is the sacred art of isolation, how time alone transforms you. But be warned, once you understand what solitude can do, your relationship with the world may never be the same again. As humans, we evolved in communities. Our shared stories, rituals, and traditions knit societies together. From tribal gatherings around the fire to bustling digital-age cities, we live in an era of perpetual connectivity. Yet, hidden in this tapestry of togetherness lies a paradox. While we thrive on cooperation, we often lose ourselves in the noise of collective life. In the quest to belong, we risk sacrificing the essence of who we are. True solitude isn't just about being physically alone. It's a deliberate journey inward, an active choice to unplug from the ceaseless chatter, both external and internal, and rediscover the stillness at your core. This journey has been revered by mystics, sages, and philosophers across every culture. Why? Because when you remove the distractions of daily life, you create the conditions for profound metamorphosis. However, just like any potent tool, solitude can be misunderstood, misused, or even weaponized by those who sense its power. Let's explore how and why this sacred art of isolation has remained in the shadows for so long. Chapter 1: The Primal Roots of Solitude. It's easy to imagine that ancient humans had no time for solitude. After all, the daily demands of survival, hunting, gathering, protecting the tribe, required constant collaboration. And yet, evidence suggests that even in Paleolithic times, individuals would retreat from the group, whether for ritual reasons, spiritual quests, or simple necessity. Caves with cryptic wall art hint at personal journeys into darkness, away from the tribe's comforting fires. Perhaps these Stone Age artists were the first to understand the synergy between isolation and creativity. Fast forward to ancient civilizations, and you'll find repeated references to hermits, monks, recluses, and philosophers who chose a life away from crowds, sometimes for years on end. The Egyptian desert fathers, the Greek cynics, the Zen monks of Asia, each tradition recognized that isolation wasn't a punishment but an opportunity. Their ranks included individuals convinced that stepping away from society wasn't just an escape, it was a crucible for self-realization. Even biblical narratives highlight figures wandering the wilderness to commune with the divine. Yes, solitude can be terrifying. The fundamental fear of being ostracized or left alone is wired into our survival instincts. But ironically, in many spiritual traditions, facing that very terror is a rite of passage, an initiation into deeper wisdom. The West African Dogon tribe, for example, has an initiation process where young men spend time in the wild, confronting the primal fear of isolation. The result? A sharpened awareness, a heightened sense of responsibility, and ultimately, a more profound connection with the tribe upon their return. Chapter 2: Why Society Fears the Lone Wolf. We pay a strange kind of lip service to me time in modern culture. Spa days, personal retreats, and moments of relaxation are marketed as personal luxuries. Yet actual solitude, the kind where you truly disconnect, remains stigmatized. People who choose extended solitude are often labeled antisocial, eccentric, or psychologically disturbed. Why do we harbor these biases? Control through social structures. Society operates on certain rhythms. Education, 9-to-5 work schedules, media consumption, that are easier to maintain when individuals conform. People who opt out, even temporarily, disrupt the normal flow. When you're alone, you're less susceptible to groupthink, marketing pressures, and institutional propaganda. Historically, reclusive thinkers who questioned authority, from heretical monks to reclusive scientists, were seen as threats. The underlying message from the system is, keep busy, keep consuming, keep relying on external affirmation. Solitude breaks that pattern. Fear of the unknown. The mind abhors a vacuum. When you remove the constant stimulus of social contact and digital connectivity, you're left with yourself, and that can be intimidating. Old traumas, insecurities, or regrets float to the surface. Society inadvertently trains us to fear that confrontation, offering endless distractions to fill the silence. Thus, the very idea of being alone with your thoughts can be deeply unsettling to those unprepared for introspection. Misdirection. In some conspiracy-minded circles, it's suggested that certain powers benefit from a perpetually distracted populace. An individual at peace within themselves, who doesn't constantly chase fleeting validation, may be less vulnerable to manipulation. While this idea might sound dramatic, consider how often we're bombarded by messages telling us to stay connected, join the community, or never be lonely again by purchasing some product or service. Solitude stands as a quiet rebellion to consumer-driven social dynamics. Chapter 3: The 3 forms of solitude. Not all alone time is created equal. Before you set off on your quest for isolation, it's crucial to distinguish between forms of solitude, each with its own potential pitfalls and promises. Passive solitude. Picture the Netflix binge in your apartment on a Friday night while you absent-mindedly scroll social media. You're physically alone but not truly immersed in your own mental space. This solitude may provide surface-level recharge, but it doesn't facilitate deep self-awareness. In fact, it can become an escape from meaningful engagement with the world or yourself. Active solitude. This is deliberate time spent alone, free from distractions, with the intention to explore your inner landscape. Journaling, meditating, hiking in nature, activities that engage the mind but also leave room for introspection. Active solitude is where creative breakthroughs often occur, where repressed emotions find expression, and where you begin to realign with your core values. Enforced solitude. This occurs when external circumstances force you to be alone, imprisonment, exile, or quarantine. While initially traumatic, enforced solitude can lead to profound growth if one embraces it as an opportunity rather than a punishment. History is full of accounts from prisoners who turned captivity into spiritual or intellectual exploration, from Boethius in ancient times to Nelson Mandela in the modern era. Chapter 4: How isolation amplifies personal evolution. Stepping into solitude can feel like stepping into a resonance chamber where every thought, desire, and fear is magnified. This amplification can accelerate personal evolution in 4 key ways: heightened self-awareness without external noise shaping your identity, like coworkers praising you or social media likes fueling your ego. You can begin seeing your true motivations and blind spots. It's akin to living in a quiet forest after being in a loud city. Subtle inner cues and emotional signals once drowned out become perceptible. Deep inner healing. Time alone strips away the armor you wear in social contexts. Emotions you've sidelined or rationalized can bubble up. While painful, this process can be profoundly cathartic. Traumas, anxieties, and repressed dreams may surface, begging to be acknowledged and integrated. The solitude catalyzes a healing journey that might take years in a noisy environment. Surge in creativity. Psychologists and neuroscientists often attribute to divergent thinking, the ability to generate innovative ideas, to solitude. The mental space fosters random connections between ideas, leading to breakthroughs in art, science, or personal problem-solving. From Nikola Tesla's solitary walks, where he visualized complex inventions, to Emily Dickinson's reclusive life that birthed extraordinary poetry, examples abound. Spiritual expansion. Practitioners of yoga, Zen Buddhism, Christian mysticism, and Sufism often emphasize solitude as a stage for deep communion with the divine, the universe, or the true self. The quiet mind is said to become receptive to higher states of awareness. The isolation becomes a gateway to experiencing oneness with all things, ironically leading to the sense that we are never truly alone. Chapter 5: The Dark Night of the Soul. No journey of solitude would be complete without discussing the dark night of the soul, a concept found in Christian mysticism but echoed throughout world spiritualities. It's that period when all old frameworks crumble, when the meaning you once clung to dissolves, leaving you feeling adrift and hollow. Sometimes triggered by personal crisis, loss, illness, betrayal, it can also arise spontaneously during extended solitude. Symptoms: the sense of emptiness, existential dread, loss of identity, questioning your place in the universe. Duration: it can last weeks, months, or even years, testing your psychological and spiritual resilience. Potential outcome: if endured and transcended, the dark night can lead to a rebirth of self, a phoenix rising from the ashes. The illusions that keep you tethered to superficial concerns vanish, replaced by an unshakable sense of meaning rooted in your core essence. Many fear this stage, and understandably so. But ironically, the dark night is often the threshold to profound enlightenment. Solitude can accelerate this process, forcing you to face the uncomfortable truths lurking in your psyche. Those who experience it sometimes come out the other side describing a clarity and inner peace they never imagined possible. Chapter 6: The Shadow Side of Solitude. While solitude can be transformative, it's not without risks. An extended period alone might magnify unhealthy patterns if you're not guided by intention or self-awareness. Consider these potential pitfalls: isolation versus avoidance. There's a fine line between seeking solitude for growth and using it to hide from life's challenges. Avoidance can stifle progress, entrench fears, and stunt emotional maturity. Social atrophy. Humans are inherently social. Prolonged isolation without reintegration can make reentry into social situations difficult, sometimes leading to anxiety, agoraphobia, or inability to empathize with others' daily experiences. Distorted realities. Without external feedback, you risk spiraling into echo chambers of your own making. Whether it's conspiracy theories, extreme beliefs, or paranoid thinking, isolation can fuel illusions if you're not careful. Depression and loneliness. Not everyone who embraces solitude experiences spiritual epiphanies. For some, especially those with underlying mental health struggles, isolation can exacerbate depression and loneliness, leading to despair rather than liberation. This is why ancient traditions often prescribe balanced cycles of solitude and community life. Monastic orders, for instance, alternate between seclusion and collective worship or service, ensuring the insights gained in isolation are integrated into the communal fabric. Chapter 7: The Unpredictable Power of Being Alone. So, how exactly does solitude mold you into a more empowered, enlightened being? The truth is, the process is as unique as the individual who undertakes it. Let's peek into some lesser-known, unpredictable dimensions. Telepathy and heightened intuition. Some claim that extended isolation sharpens intuitive powers, even hinting at telepathy or a heightened sense of synchronicity. Is it magical thinking, or does removing the static of daily life reveal latent human capacities? Historically, certain shamans and mystics insisted that forms of ESP are accessible once mental chatter is silenced. Confrontation with mortality. With fewer distractions, the reality of impermanence can become starkly apparent. Paradoxically, this can foster a deeper reverence for life, intensifying each moment's preciousness. Chaotic emotional release. Don't be surprised if you find yourself weeping uncontrollably or laughing hysterically without any obvious trigger. As the psyche purges old emotional energy, you may experience extremes. This can feel chaotic but often leads to equilibrium on the other side. Inexplicable attraction and repulsion. Friends or family members might respond unpredictably to your journey. Some will be drawn to the newfound depth in your presence. Others may recoil, sensing a shift that challenges their own comfort zones. In some spiritual circles, it's suggested that the changes in your energetic field either magnetize or repel people who are sensitive to authenticity or threatened by it. Chapter 8: Crafting Your Own Sacred Isolation Practice. Embracing the art of solitude doesn't require moving to a remote mountain cabin, though you can, if that calls to you. Modern life offers endless ways to carve out pockets of transformative alone time. Here are some strategies to consider. Daily mini retreats. Schedule 15 to 30 minutes of uninterrupted solitude each day. Turn off devices, close your door, and simply sit with yourself. Whether you meditate, journal, or just stare at a wall, commit to presence. Nature immersion. Make it a practice to spend time in natural settings alone: forest trails, secluded beaches, deserts. Nature can act as a mirror, reflecting your internal state and guiding you toward equilibrium. Tech fasts. Go offline for a day or weekend each month. No social media, no Netflix, no email. Let the withdrawal symptoms reveal your attachments, then sink into the clarity that follows. Structured solo retreat if possible. Dedicate a week or more to a silent retreat. Monasteries, spiritual centers, or even a cabin rental can provide the container you need to dive deep. Don't underestimate the intensity. Be prepared for internal storms before the calm arrives. Hybrid solitude balance personal reflection with occasional touchpoints with friends or a mentor. This ensures you integrate revelations into daily life, maintaining a lifeline to community support. Chapter 9: The Return to Community in Mythic Journeys. Like Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, the hero retreats into the wilderness or underworld, only to return bearing new wisdom or tools to uplift the community. Solitude is a crucial step, but it's seldom the final destination. Eventually, you'll re-emerge, changed, and the challenge is to bring those insights back into your relationships, work, and broader society. Communication shift. After meaningful alone time, your style of communication may shift to calmer, more deliberate speech. Friends might notice you have fewer but more impactful words. Boundaries and authenticity. If you've reclaimed your sense of self in isolation, you'll likely establish healthier boundaries. Some relationships will deepen, others may fall away. Larger calling. For many, solitude clarifies a sense of purpose or calling. Maybe you realize you're meant to teach, heal, create, or advocate for change. Stepping back into society with that clarity can spark powerful contributions that wouldn't have been possible before. Here is where the real test lies. Can you remain anchored in your inner stillness while engaging with a noisy, often chaotic world? Your solitary transformations will be tested by everyday stressors, traffic jams, family dramas, workplace politics. This is how solitude's fruits truly mature, blossoming into wisdom that shapes not just your life, but those around you. Chapter 10: The Secret Legacy of Loners. Throughout history, countless luminaries credited solitude for their innovations and profound insights. Isaac Newton discovered calculus and unlocked gravitational laws during his self-imposed isolation to escape the plague. Henry David Thoreau's sojourn at Walden Pond inspired a manifesto on deliberate living. Nikola Tesla famously withdrew from society to harness his visionary ideas. Even certain spiritual figures, from Moses on Mount Sinai to the Buddha under the Bodhi tree, encountered revelation in seclusion. What unites them is the recognition that inner silence can be more instructive than external chatter. It's in these quiet crucibles that new philosophies, inventions, and spiritual breakthroughs emerge, free from the tyranny of conventional thought. But such legacies often come at a price: periods of loneliness, misunderstanding, or ridicule from peers who can't grasp the transformative nature of self-imposed isolation. Yet from these individuals, society reaps immeasurable rewards, new paradigms, deeper wisdom, and an expanded sense of possibility for all. Chapter 11: The Ultimate Paradox of Connection. Here's the paradox at the heart of this sacred art. By intentionally stepping away from the crowd, you may end up feeling more connected to humanity than ever before. Once the incessant surface-level chatter is silenced, you sense a universal hum that unites all living things. You realize solitude isn't about building walls, it's about removing illusions of separation. In deep solitude, you might discover empathy for the collective, understanding your own pains and joys leads to compassion for the struggles of others. The universal becomes personal, and the personal becomes universal. Gratitude for companionship. Rejoining loved ones can feel like tasting water after a long thirst. Relationships take on new depth when free from codependent or superficial dynamics. Soulful authenticity. You have a sturdier sense of identity, less shaped by trends or opinions. When you do connect, it's from a place of wholeness rather than need. Yes, it's a paradox that feeling alone can foster deeper unity with others. But that's precisely the nature of real transformation. It defies linear logic. Stay tuned for part 2. We've covered the origins of solitude, its role in personal evolution, the potential pitfalls, and glimpses of its transformative power. But we're just getting started. In the next installment, we'll dive deeper into the real-world applications of isolation, from modern technology's effect on our ability to be alone, to real-case examples of individuals who turned enforced solitude into a crucible for greatness. We'll also explore step-by-step methods for harnessing isolation as a spiritual accelerator, ensuring that when you're alone, you're truly tapping into the hidden reservoir of your soul. Remember, solitude is neither a curse nor a panacea, it's a mirror. What you find within it depends on who you truly are, beneath the social armor and the daily grind. Proceed with an open mind, an adventurous spirit, and a willingness to confront the unknown. Because in that silent void, you might just meet the most powerful, unfiltered version of yourself. In our first section, we ventured through the historical roots and psychological layers of solitude. We explored how isolation can catalyze extraordinary creativity, mirror our deepest truths, and act as a crucible for personal evolution. But that was only the foundation. Now it's time to unearth the modern angles. The places where isolation intersects with digital technology, where forced solitude meets sudden epiphanies, and where the intangible art of being alone might reshape the collective future in ways that few expect. Chapter 12, The Digital Paradox. It's alone, yet never alone. Our ancestors could only imagine a reality in which they had instant access to the rest of the world, news, opinions, images, 24 hours a day. Now, we carry it in our pockets. We live in a state of near-perpetual connectivity. So, does that mean we're never truly alone? Always-on culture, social media, instant messaging, and perpetual notifications create the illusion that we're surrounded by digital company. Yet, ironically, many people report feeling more isolated than ever. It's a phenomenon sometimes called crowded loneliness, a constant stream of faces and updates, but little genuine soul-to-soul contact. The echo chamber effect online. We curate who we follow, which communities we join, and what content we see. This can form echo chambers that reinforce existing beliefs, limiting true self-discovery. If the purpose of solitude is to unmask your authentic core, then spending your alone time lost in digital rabbit holes can sabotage that process. Counterintuitive solutions. Some people find partial relief in digital detoxes, temporary escapes from the feed. Others go further, adopting simpler phones devoid of apps and data plans. While these may sound extreme, the goal is to protect the sacred space where true introspection can happen. When you're alone, you shouldn't have the entire digital universe whispering in your ear. Chapter 13, Forced Solitude. From prison to revelation. Sometimes solitude isn't chosen, it's imposed. The stories of individuals who experience forced isolation can be harrowing, yet some transform that time into a remarkable metamorphosis. Antonio Vieira's cell epiphany. A 17th-century priest wrongly imprisoned during the Inquisition, Vieira spent years in a dark cell. Denied books or pen and paper, he turned inward. By memorizing and reorganizing his previous studies, he emerged with astonishing oratory and theological insights, eventually becoming a legendary figure in Portuguese history. Modern quarantine cases. During pandemic lockdowns, countless people found themselves alone in apartments for weeks on end. While many struggled with anxiety and depression, others reported unexpected self-discoveries, rekindling old hobbies, reflecting on life's direction, or forging deeper connections with loved ones through more mindful communication. Forced solitude can become a surprise crucible for growth if approached with courage and curiosity. Psychological shifts in prisons worldwide. Some inmates adopt rigorous spiritual or mental disciplines, meditation, journaling, art. Over time, these practices lead to extraordinary transformations of character. While prison is a harsh environment, the stark isolation can serve as a massive mirror, reflecting both the darkest corners of the psyche and the potential for redemption. Chapter 14, Case Studies in Extreme Isolation. Let's look at a few more case studies, modern and historical, that underscore the power of solitude in shaping destinies. The solo sailors, adventurers who embark on single-handed voyages across oceans, often describe a surreal blend of terror and transcendence. Alone with the sea and sky, they confront not only physical dangers but also the boundaries of their own minds. Many emerge with profound spiritual realizations, likening the vast emptiness of the ocean to the quiet expanse of the soul. Academic seclusion. Some scholars, fed up with the politics of academia, retreat to remote cabins or modest apartments to finish their magnum opus. Free from departmental gossip and the pressure to publish or perish, they channel their mental energies into a single burning focus. The result can be groundbreaking research or philosophical texts that shift entire paradigms. Desert mystics. From the Egyptian desert fathers to modern-day hermits in the American Southwest, individuals who choose desert solitude face brutal heat, scarce water, and the relentless emptiness of sand and rock. Yet many speak of hearing a silent voice in the desert wind, a cosmic resonance that dissolves the ego. As one contemporary hermit put it, you think you're getting away from the world, but really, you're stepping right into its heart. Chapter 15, Unpredictable Gifts. When solitude shatters reality. Entering solitude isn't a gentle, linear progression for everyone. Sometimes it's an unpredictable roller coaster with moments of ecstasy and flashes of terror. Let's explore the more unforeseen gifts that isolation can bestow: random bursts of genius without the daily hum of external opinions, new neural pathways form. Some people experience sudden downloads of information, a spontaneous clarity about how to solve a problem, write a poem, or reconcile a philosophical quandary. These bursts don't always come from disciplined effort. Often, they arise when the mind finally surrenders its usual constraints. Encountering archetypes. Depth psychologists suggest that in solitude, one may confront primal archetypes, universal symbols, or mythic figures that arise from the collective unconscious. Whether you see them as Jungian constructs or literal spiritual entities, these encounters can guide or challenge you. In a sense, you meet the entire pantheon of humanity's hopes, fears, and dreams within your own psyche. Heightened empathy for the collective. This might sound contradictory, but true alone time can expand your empathy. Freed from the noise of everyday transactions and small talk, you may intuit the universal struggles and yearnings we all share. What emerges is a deeper, more authentic compassion that isn't built on social niceties but on genuine understanding. Paradoxical time dilation. Isolated individuals often report that time becomes elastic. Hours can feel like minutes, or minutes can stretch into eternity. This shift can be unnerving yet liberating, shaking you out of the linear clock time that governs modern life. You might return to society with a changed sense of what truly matters in each ticking second. Chapter 16: Harnessing Solitude as a Spiritual Accelerator. For those who sense that solitude could be a spiritual practice, here are steps to use isolation not merely as a break from routine, but as a potent accelerator for inner growth. Set sacred intentions before entering a period of solitude, be it a weekend retreat or a year-long sabbatical. Clarify your intentions. Maybe you seek to heal past trauma, commune with a higher power, or write a life-defining piece of work. Having a clear purpose acts like a compass, guiding you through the emotional labyrinth. Create rituals. Rituals anchor the day, giving structure to your alone time. For instance, light a candle at dawn, dedicate your efforts to understanding your inner world, and blow it out at dusk with a brief reflection. Rituals don't have to be religious, they simply remind you that solitude is a sacred container for transformation. Ground through the body. During extended solitude, the mind can wander into abstract realms. Practices like yoga, tai chi, or simply mindful stretching ensure you remain connected to your physical vessel. This helps prevent you from drifting too far into daydreams or anxieties, grounding your explorations in the tangible present. Document the journey. Journaling or voice recording your thoughts can become a map of your internal terrain. Patterns emerge, breakthroughs become visible, and you'll have a record of how far you've traveled when doubt inevitably creeps in. Discernment versus obsession. Solitude can brew powerful insights, but it can also become a trap if you latch onto every wild idea. Maintain healthy skepticism about your revelations. Let them simmer for a while before reorganizing your entire life around a sudden epiphany. Balance the voice of intuition with logical self-checks. Chapter 17: Community after isolation, reintegrating without losing yourself. Eventually, solitude must interface with society again. You return to your job, your family, or at least the marketplace. The question arises, how do you preserve the inner transformation without slipping back into old, unconscious habits? Mindful communication. Speak less, listen more. Notice how your newfound self-awareness influences your interactions. You might realize how rarely people truly listen to each other. Resist the urge to enlighten others with your solitary revelations unless they actively seek your insights. Selective socializing. You may feel drawn to deeper, more authentic connections rather than large, superficial gatherings. Trust that instinct. Quality trumps quantity. People who resonate with your newfound authenticity will appear in unexpected ways, forming a more meaningful support network. Periodic retreats make solitude a recurring practice. Even a short retreat every few months can rejuvenate your clarity. Rather than seeing isolation as a one-off event, integrate it into the rhythm of your life. This cyclical approach mirrors how monastic communities alternate between communal worship and individual reflection. Sharing the wisdom your experiences could serve others who are too overwhelmed or afraid to explore solitude. By gently sharing what you've learned through writing, conversation, or supportive mentorship, you catalyze change beyond yourself, creating ripples that might alter collective attitudes toward being alone. Chapter 18. The unpredictable impact on the world. It may sound hyperbolic, but your solitary journey can have ramifications far beyond your personal life. Cultural evolution. Humanity's greatest leaps often stem from individuals who dared to step outside societal rhythms. Whether in science, art, or ethics, new ideas take root first in solitary minds before they find collective acceptance. Your epiphany, cultivated in quiet isolation, could be tomorrow's turning point. Balancing connectivity. As more people rediscover the power of alone time, society might balance its obsession with constant digital interaction. Imagine a culture where off-grid retreats become as common as vacations, where spending time in stillness is valued as much as productivity. It might sound utopian, but even small steps in that direction can reduce burnout and collective anxiety. Subtle energetic shifts. Some spiritual philosophies argue that every personal transformation subtly affects the collective consciousness. By raising your own vibration in solitude, resolving inner conflicts, healing traumas, and accessing deeper compassion, you contribute to a broader harmonization. Perhaps it's intangible, but countless mystics maintain that individual growth echoes through the tapestry of humanity. Chapter 19. When society rejects your transformation. Not all stories end with communal celebration. Some people find that society doesn't want them back in an enlightened or transformed state. You might face backlash or indifference. Friends or family who feel left behind. They might accuse you of arrogance or say you've changed too much. They could interpret your shift as a rejection of them. Handling this requires empathy and patience, reassuring them you still value their presence while maintaining your new boundaries. Professional roadblocks. Employers or colleagues may not appreciate your newly softened demeanor or your refusal to compromise your integrity. This can lead to tension or even job changes. The challenge is to integrate your insights without creating constant friction. In a turmoil, perhaps you miss the simplicity of life before your self-discoveries. Ignorance can seem blissful compared to the unrelenting awareness gained through solitude. Doubts can resurface. Was it worth it? The key is to trust the deeper alignment you feel, even if it introduces complexity. Chapter 20. The Sacred Art. Beyond time and space. By now, one thing should be clear: solitude is not a commodity to be bought or sold. It's an ever-available portal into the complexities and grandeur of your own consciousness. And the more you explore it, the more you realize how boundless that consciousness truly is. But solitude's gifts can't be fully measured by words or theories. It's a lived experience that defies neat summaries, an unfolding process that speaks differently to each person. For some, it's a fleeting daily practice that keeps them grounded. For others, it becomes a lifelong path that edges into mysticism. The art of isolation is both deeply personal and universally resonant. The conclusion: wisdom in the void. We began this journey by questioning everything we know about being alone. We've wandered through history, touched on the fear of isolation embedded in our survival instincts, and witnessed the liberating transformations that solitude can spark. We've seen how it can heal wounds, awaken dormant creativity, and even unify us with a collective spirit we never knew existed. And now we stand at the edge of a choice: remain in the comfortable swirl of social conventions and endless distractions, or dare to claim the sacred space of isolation, if only for a moment. Remember, solitude isn't a retreat from reality, it's a fearless plunge into the deepest layers of it. The truth that emerges in that silent void may shatter old beliefs, yes, but it can also lead to revelations that reverberate through every relationship, every endeavor, and every corner of your life. If there's one final takeaway, let it be this: your solitude is your sanctuary. Within its quiet walls, you alone rule your mind, confront your shadows, and converse with the essence of who you are. It is an untapped fountain of insight, waiting to be acknowledged amid a world obsessed with noise. Embrace it. Honor it. Transform within it. And when you're ready, bring the treasures you found back into the grand tapestry of human connection, stronger, wiser, and more authentic than before. Because in the end, the sacred art of isolation isn't truly about being alone at all. It's about returning to the world profoundly and unapologetically yourself, carrying a quiet power that no social frenzy can ever uproot.